So before I begin this week's bake, I'd like to share a story of Rapunzel's enchanted carrots. One day, a man and his wife were walking in the woods a few miles from home. They were happy because they were about to have a baby, but it was also a sad day as the man had just lost his job. He was an optician, yet all of a sudden, no one in the village seemed to need glasses anymore. The man suspected it had something to do with the rumour about an old lady in the woods who grew and sold the most stupendous carrots. They were said to be the largest, crispest and brightest carrots that anyone had ever seen. Some even said they were enchanted, and everyone knew that eating carrots helped their eyesight. As the man and woman wove their way through the trees trying to cheer each other up, they came across a tiny cottage. "That's odd," said the woman. "I've never seen this cottage here before, and I walk in the woods all the time." They peered over the gate and gasped at the sight of a huge vegetable garden bursting with life. There were cabbages, courgettes, green beans, and row upon row of carrots. "Let's have a closer look," the man whispered. They didn't seem to see anyone around, so he took his wife's hand and they crept through the gate. The man kneeled down and pulled the leafiest carrot out of the ground. It was so orange it could have glowed in the dark, and it looked mouth-wateringly juicy. The man offered the carrot to his wife. She took a bite, and the crunch echoed through the garden. Before they knew it, they had crunched and munched their way through all the carrots in the vegetable patch. They curled up for a nap in the cabbage patch, their tummies full. The sound of a door slamming woke the snoozing man and woman with a start. A wrinkly, warty old lady was looming over them, wagging her bony finger and shouting, "How dare you steal my carrots? You'll pay for this!" she yelled. The sorry pair were very embarrassed and promised to pay the old lady back as soon as the man got a new job. But she turned and stomped away, muttering under her breath. A few months later, the man and his wife had a beautiful baby girl they called Rapunzel. She was the light of their life. The man found another job and went back to the woods with the money to repay the old lady for the carrots. But he couldn't find her. The cottage had completely disappeared. Everything was happy again for the man and his wife until one morning they found their daughter's bed empty. They were distraught. It was all over the news, and everyone in the country was searching far and wide for this little girl. But it was no surprise that no one could find her, for the old lady from the cottage, who was really a witch, had snatched her and imprisoned her in a high tower block. Rapunzel's room in the tower block only had one window and one door, but it had a little kitchen that she loved to use. The witch would visit every morning, bringing carrots with her, so Rapunzel got really good at carrot recipes. She also had a karaoke machine and a chest stuffed full of thousands of pairs of glasses, so she baked and sang and examined the glasses. Day after day, she found glasses completely fascinating, but she couldn't work out why. By now, Rapunzel's hair had grown really long, so the old witch would call up to the window, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel would gather up her hair, which she had plaited into a hefty rope. Then she would throw it out of the window and wait for the witch to climb up. This was the only life poor Rapunzel knew. One day, a young man came riding past the tower block on his shiny green BMX. The sound of Rapunzel singing karaoke was so beautiful, it nearly made him fall off his bike. The boy hid behind a nearby holly bush and looked up at the window. The singing girl was as lovely as her voice, and he fell head over heels for her in a heartbeat. He could not believe his eyes when an old warty lady came along, called to the girl, and climbed up her long hair. The boy was a bit shy. He came back day after day, but he could never pluck up the courage to do anything about this love for Rapunzel. But one day her singing was just so unbearably lovely, he ran to the bottom of the block, copied what he'd heard from the witch calling, and climbed up the plaited hair that dropped down to him. Rapunzel couldn't believe her eyes when a boy with a friendly smile tumbled through her window instead of the witch. They ate carrot cake and talked for hours about all the things Rapunzel had done, like ride a bike or go to the cinema or ice skate. When the boy climbed back down her plait, he promised Rapunzel he would save her and teach her how to ride his BMX. The next day, the old lady snagged Rapunzel's hair as she climbed. Ow! The boy didn't pull my hair when he climbed up it yesterday. Maybe you should start using lifts, Rapunzel blurted out before she realised what she had said. The witch was very angry that someone else had been in the room and chopped off Rapunzel's lovely hair with the bluntest fish knife in the kitchen. The boy arrived that afternoon, shoved his BMX under the holly bush and called up to Rapunzel. The plait tumbled down and the boy climbed up it. But, to his horror, the witch was waiting for him at the top. She pushed him from the tower and he fell into the holly bush, pricking his eyes on the spiky leaves. He could barely see. Rapunzel looked out of the window at the boy she loved, staggering about with his hands over his eyes, and something snapped inside her. She grabbed the plait and used it to tie the witch to the chair. Then she grabbed a freshly baked batch of carrots, cookies, wrapped up as many pairs of glasses as she could in a bedsheet, and left the tower and the witch behind forever, singing with joy as she went. Down on the ground, the boy could hear the song. He couldn't believe it when the sound got closer and closer until it was right in his ear. He couldn't see very well, but he knew it was Rapunzel. She spread out the bedsheet on the floor, guided the boy to sit down, and fed him a cookie to make him feel better. Then she rootled through all the glasses until she found a perfect pair. She slid them on the boy's nose and he gasped. He could see again. They spent the whole afternoon eating carrot cookies, doing wheelies on the BMX and making plans for the future. What do you want to be when you're older, Rapunzel? The boy asked. An optician, she said. It just feels like who I am. So that was a really lovely story, and it leads us on nicely to the recipe we're going to be cooking today. It's called Carrot and Nutmeg Cookies, and it's from one of my favourite recipe books called Nadia's Bake Me a Story. And Nadia was on the Great British Bake Off and she won it, and she has got some amazing recipes in here. So if you can get your hands on one of these books, I highly recommend it because you can have a story and a delicious treat to go with it. Okay, so now we've read our story, we're ready to bake our delicious cookies. So it's time to wash those hands, get your aprons on and get ready to bake. So now that I've got my apron on and I'm ready to go, I've preheated my oven to 180 degrees and I have got my baking tray with my grease-proof sheet on top of it. If you've not got one of these, you can use grease-proof paper or just grease it with a bit of butter to stop the cookies from sticking. It's now time to weigh my ingredients. Now that I've got all my lovely ingredients together, it's time to mix them up. So I'm going to put them all in a bowl together. Now I know what you're thinking, carrots in a cookie? Well, I promise you won't even taste them, but it's really cool if we can try and get as much vegetable and nutrition in the food that we're eating. Okay, so I've got my lovely bowl of flour here. I'm going to add in my grated carrots, oats, my lovely oats. I'm also going to add in a pinch of salt, my nutmeg. So I've got mixed spice, which I'm going to add to mine. So we're going to put in 1.5 tablespoons of nutmeg to just gently dust the top of the oats. Some vanilla extract, which gives it a bit of flavour, and a bit of baking powder as well, and this will just help them to rise. Okay, so I'm then going to put in my egg as well. All goes in at the same time, which is really nice. I love recipes that you can do this with. Just makes everything a lot easier. And I'm going to pop in my honey last as well. Okay, so once you've finished combining your mixture, you should have quite a sticky mixture, or I have. I've never cooked these before, so we're in it together. So what I'm going to do with these now is I'm going to create 6 dollops of paste, which it says that in the recipe. So I'm thinking a dollop for me is quite sticky, so I'm hoping that this works. They look really yummy. They look almost like a flapjack. So I'm going to create 6 dollops, and I'm going to put that on my tray, and I'm going to equally separate them so that they don't come together when they're baking. Okay, so they're done. I've taken them out of the oven. I've let them cool on a cooling rack, and yeah, they look amazing and they smell really good too. They don't look as sticky as they did before. So I thought I'd break one open to show you what it looks like inside, and also then I can try it too. So let's take a little look inside. So it looks nice and golden on the outside. It says in the recipe to put them in for 12 to 15 minutes. They didn't look how I thought they would after 15 minutes. I checked on them after 12, and I thought I'd leave them in for a couple more minutes, but I didn't want to leave them in any longer because I didn't want to dry them out. So let's have a little look and see inside. Oh wow, that looks so nice, and can you see that it's nice and spongy as well?